a little bit about the struggle of turning art into a business. And for some of you, maybe now are web developers, but started out illustrating, I said that weird. But I think this can apply to a lot of people. So am I an artist? Am I an entrepreneur? What am I? So a little bit about me. I am a metalsmith. Sorry, I think the wind's blowing on here. I'm a metalsmith and jewelry artist. That's how I make my living. And so I'm constantly in the struggle of like, how do I monetize this? Am I like selling out my art? What should I be doing? And I feel like I'm in the struggle between being like a serious artist who's in galleries and people respect, and then like seeing my earrings on someone at a concert and selling them for $60, which might sound like a lot, but not that much. So 3 different parts of me here in the struggle, right? The first is the artist, the one who's like creating from my gut, and I don't care what people pay me for, and I don't care what people think about it. It's like, this came out of my brain, and this is what I love. The next thing is that I do make my living being an artist, so I have to create a business out of it, right? I have to monetize it. I have to read the business books that everyone else is, reading, and I'm a solopreneur and all that BS stuff, right? So like, that's the other side of it, and I've chosen that. And then the other thing is this term that we've coined now that's creative entrepreneur, which involves everyone, like a life coach and a web developer, and so maybe I'm that too. I don't know, which of these 3 things am I, and where do I need to focus my energy? So this is an example of something I did for a gallery show that I took a stone, I created, all of the pieces by hand, and it took me forever, and it's still in my collection because it was outrageously expensive and no one would buy it, right? The other, struggle part of this is, sometimes I'm, at an art show, and some woman walks up to me and is like, why is this so expensive? You know what I mean? So, do I want to fight that? Do I want to, water stuff down or not? I feel like I'm this super sleazy salesman, right? Who has to be like, well, here's the lifestyle you want. Here's why you want my piece. Here's why it's all handmade, right? And as an artist, I don't want to do that. So this is a little bit of the math behind pricing pieces. And I guess the main issue that I always have is the part where it says my time, right? And what is my time worth? What do other people perceive my time as being worth? I'm an expert in my field. I have a lot of experience. You can't do what I do unless you've taken a lot of classes and stuff, right? So where does that equate as my value? And then what will you pay me for that, right? So this is a little graph of what always bothers me of the hourly rate for a web developer, let's say, and then the hourly rate that I feel like I can charge myself as a metalsmith. So the pros of trying to include everyone, right, do pieces for everyone is all up here. You get a wider audience. You get to interact with a really cool network of people, for sure. The cons are definitely this title of maker instead of artist that we've coined for some of these things. And then am I watering down my work so that people can afford it, essentially? Or am I not being true to myself? So then the other thing I've considered is okay, what if I'm a high art artist, which is a little derogatory term, but the stuff you see in a gallery, or if I were going to do my own show in a gallery. This is the feeling that I have when I think of something like that. So this is the example of a piece that is very small, but so much work went into it, and there are kind of old school techniques that went into it, and I could never sell it because it's so expensive. It is a gallery type piece. Same with this, everything's hand drawn and etched into the material. And that is great. It gave me so much joy to create that, right? But no one bought those pieces. They're still in my collection. So is that okay? So then these are the feelings I feel when I try and create that kind of high art, right? Am I really an artist if no one is buying my stuff? Do I want to create for this audience who only goes to a gallery, and that's the type of people that I'm now creating for? So there are no answers to this, but I just am constantly feeling this very push-pull of where does my art fit and what is adequate or not adequate for me as a person trying to live a life, right? Is it okay to be an artist Or is it okay to like be a creative entrepreneur, whatever that means? So, you know, I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but I just kind of like wanted to talk about that struggle a little bit.